Sorry, Troy. YouTube is struggling tonight. That
That's
red bar won't go all the way to the other end.
And well, YouTube has its challenges for sure.
All right, we're ready to go.
Okay, so welcome everybody to Oregon City Parks and Rec Advisory Committee regular meeting. It is July 22nd and just a couple minutes after 7 o'clock. And so I call the meeting to order and introductions of PRAC members. Jeff Sargent, you want to wave at everybody? And Sean Dashler, Tim West, and Karen Morey.
Hello.
And so thank you everybody for being here. The approval of the minutes from June 24th. Everybody should have received their packet for that. And I just, there we go. I just lost mine off my screen. So any questions, suggestions for changes, updates on to the minutes of June 24th? Or if not, a motion when so ready.
Sean's hands up.
Oh, I apologize. Sean, please.
No problem. Sean here. I moved to approve the June 24th meeting minutes.
Karen, I second.
Okay, Kendall, you want to pull? That was Sean with the first, with the motion, and Karen with the second.
All right. Tim West,
Aye.
Karen Morey,
Aye.
Troy Bollinger,
Aye.
Jeff Sargent,
Aye.
Derek Kugel. He did come on. Andy Crump, Sean Dashler,
Aye.
Brent Haverkamp, and Derek, did you make it on? He is there, but can't hear him.
Okay. So, and I failed to mention in our, I should have said in our introductions, that Brent Haverkamp is out of town with family and is excused from the meeting tonight. So he won't be with us. Anyone, Kendall, requesting to make public comment about anything that's not on the agenda?
No.
Okay. So general business, first order of business, or first order of general business is we unfortunately have a member of PRAC with a resignation. So Jeff, I'll turn a little bit of time over to you.
Okay. Thanks. You know, I guess it was about 5 years ago that I moved from Arizona to be with my daughter and her family. And a few months back, they told me that they wanted to move further north. And I'll tell you, Oregon City is about as far north as I care to go. So maybe some of you might remember back in the early days of Zoom when Sean and Derek had Zoom backgrounds with ocean breezes and palm trees and what have you. So I started to think maybe if I'm going to move, I should act on a dream that I've had for about 30 years now. So I've decided to move to Hawaii. And once I made that decision, we went through wildfire evacuations, ice storms, falling trees in the middle of the night, heat domes, and all that sort of stuff. It sort of settled my mind that this was the thing to do. So plans are starting to move pretty quickly right now. And I thought that this would probably be the best time to call this is my last PRAC meeting. I'm going to be pretty engaged in the move. I did, however, consider that since my status is as a PRAC member in the outside city limits, and the meetings are on Zoom, that maybe I could pull it off, but I'm guessing that Hilo, Hawaii is probably a little bit too far outside the city limits.
A little bit.
Anyway, I did want to take the opportunity, and thanks, Troy, for providing this, to to say that I really do consider it a great pleasure and a privilege to have served on the PRAC. And I believe with my whole heart that it's important for citizens of any community to volunteer their time and assets to help the community plan and prosper. And you know, I really give kudos to the members of the PRAC for having the passion and the interest in serving on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee so that we can make our parks better. And, you know, considering the current planning efforts that we've reviewed over the past year, I sincerely believe that Oregon City Parks and Recreation has a very, very bright future, especially once we get our deferred maintenance situation under control. And I think that'll happen. Our parks are going to be even better, stronger, and more accessible to the community. And you know, in many ways, I wish that I could continue to be a part of that because I think it's exciting times for the city and for the department. And I would just really dearly love to be a part of that in the future. But I also wanted to let you know that I've enjoyed interacting with each and every one of you. And I've always been impressed with your level of commitment and passion for our parks. And well, I hope there'll be an opportunity to serve in a similar capacity in Hawaii because, you know, parks are so very important to the health, well-being of our communities. So just wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to serve Oregon City. It's won a place in my heart. And I'm always going to be interested in what happens in this community. And you guys have all my best wishes for continued success. So thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you very, very much. I want to be the first to say thank you. Appreciate your the time and commitment you've put on. I do remember when you applied and we did our interview, one thing that stuck out in my mind was your desire and your, I would say, high interest in the success of the parks in Oregon City. And now that was a few years ago. I think it's about 2.5 years ago, right? Maybe actually 3, I guess, when we at the interview time. But that I still remember that piece, and so thank you for that. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts from or comments from members of PRAC? Karen, your hand is up.
Yep, Jeff, I will miss you. Your experience and your input have been invaluable. Thank you so much for joining us briefly. And I agree with your rundown of reasons to move to Hawaii. You're right, Oregon's far enough north and even this year too far. So have a wonderful life.
Well, thank you. Since this is a recorded meeting and it is public, I think it's only appropriate that we are on record saying that Jeff's resignation is Sean Dashler's fault. So I want to make sure that's recorded because of those backgrounds that, you know, just enticed and pushed. So I'm glad that's on record. And I'm a little disappointed that the fire, ice storm, and power outages didn't keep you. I don't quite understand that. But hey, good luck to you. Deferred maintenance, and we'll address the vacancy here in nice, Sean, that's great. We'll discuss the vacancy here and how we're going to address that a little bit later in the meeting. So now we'll talk about deferred maintenance assessment and capital improvement plan. Kendall has an update for us.
Yes. As you know, the Parks and Recreation Department has been working with a consultant from the Bureau Veritas Technical Assessments to conduct a full system deferred maintenance assessment. The scope of the services included an assessment of all of our facilities, including parks, cemetery, recreation facilities, our senior center, pool, and museums. Tonight we have with us Jim Cave, and he will be providing an update and providing a presentation on the results from that assessment. Jim?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here and just wait with me for a second. And share, let's see. Okay, I presume everyone can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So again, my name is Jim Kay from Register Architect. I am a little bit further north than you guys, and the weather's okay up here. I work and live in Gig Harbor, Washington, so I'm a Northwest guy, just like I'm sure many of you are. As Kendall was saying, that we provided a facility condition assessment or a deferred maintenance assessment, one and the same, for all of your facilities. And I want to talk about some of our results of that from a sort of a higher level. I'm going to talk about just briefly about BV&A, Bureau Veritas North America, the scope of work, the reporting and findings for the parks, reportings and findings for the facilities. Talk just for a minute about Asset Calc database and take any questions you guys might have. So Bureau Veritas North America, you can see some of the stats here. BV&A is quite a large company. Our division's called BAPM, Building Assessments and Project Management. And that part of BV&A, we've got about 700 folks throughout the United States. And here we go, next slide. Some of the other services that we provide besides facility condition assessments or capital planning, ADA transition plans, energy audit, and some other things as you can see here on the screen. So Oregon City commissioned us to do condition assessments of the parks listed here, as well as facilities. There are a few others that we provided that are outside of this presentation, city facilities that I won't be talking about this evening. The parks and facilities are divided in two different lists. And so I will be talking about those a little bit separately. Now, our task was to inspect each one of these properties, identify deficiencies, assess the relative condition of the various capital assets for each of the sites, and with that data, prepare a 20-year capital reserves plan for each location. Just go to the next slide. So just to talk a little bit about how we do that, we've got teams of assessors that will go out to the sites and they'll look at each of these building systems, building and site systems, the structure, facades, roofs, interiors, elevators, all of these systems, and we'll quantify those. We'll assess it. We'll make a visual assessment and determine the effective age of that asset. And then we will input it into these iPads that we have. And the iPads are connected to a central database called Asset Calc. And in that database, we've got, and you can see a little picture of the iPad right here. Each one of our assessors brings these out, and it gives them access to standard costing and pricing for various, a park bench or a, asphalt paving. And so we're able to access this database right from the iPad when we're on site. And then, of course, once we get back to the office, we're able to access the same database on our PC desktop machines, and we can do some further analysis and quantification of various parts and pieces from our desktop. Our cost estimating, like I was saying, it comes from a central database that we maintain, And that the data that is in there comes from various sources, including RS means, and as well as our own experience. Sales tax, project management costs generally are not included. General condition soft costs, general contractor soft costs are included. And the costs that we use are adjusted by region based upon RS means standard. So if you guys are know construction very much, you'll be very familiar with RS means. So with all of the site data that our assessors collect from on site, and the quantities and the pricing that we collect, plus the ratings, the assessment of the actual condition of the assets, we're able to take all of this data in our software. We're able to create various reports, including replacement reserve reports, capitalization, capital plan reports, and prioritization. I'm going to go over some of those reports briefly, and then after that, I'm going to go through some of the actual findings. In order to do that, there's a few things that you guys will need to have a working knowledge of. A few terms: expected useful life. Expected useful life is for every product and material used in construction or on parks and facilities. There's an industry standard for how long that asset will remain serviceable. That's called an EUL, expected useful life. Effective age, that's basically the actual age plus or minus in-site conditions. Sometimes assets don't get used very much, that will drop the effective age. Sometimes they're abused, that will increase the effective age. So it's not just actually how old is something, there's a weighted average depending upon how it's been treated. Remaining useful life is just simply the expected useful life minus the effective age. Deficiencies, that's obvious. Deficiencies, there's immediate repairs, short-term repairs, and all deficiencies can be divided into either immediate or short-term repairs. Immediates are generally the first year. Short terms are within the first 2 years, or years 2 and 3. One other thing, plan types. There are various plan types. There's for deficiencies or just replacements. And there's safety, performance, integrity, accessibility, life cycle repairs, modernizations, and adaptations. And virtually every dollar that you'll spend out on a park site or a facility can fall into one of these categories. The deferred maintenance will generally be safety, accessibility, or performance integrity type plan types. Modernizations are usually when something is functionally obsolescent. There's a functional issue with it, and that just requires a complete replacement just due to it's perfectly fine, but functionally it doesn't suit the need. In most modernization, adaptation costs are normally outside the scope. Not all the time, but generally those are sort of outside our scope. Reserve items are, it's a cost that a reserve repair is a cost for an item that will have to get replaced within the 20-year period, but is not in poor condition now. That's called a reserve item. And then immediate repairs, I've already talked about that. Year 1 repairs, it's usually unsafe, life safety, mission critical element, or something that could contribute to a critical failure. Those are immediate repairs. Short-term repairs are simply less critical deficiencies. So some of the reports I'll show you are immediate needs reports. I'm just going to buzz through this really quickly. That's obvious what that is. Systems expenditure forecast. What we've done in this case is we've taken the all of the costs for all of the parks or facilities, lumped them into one sort of pile, and we've divided it between basically by when it occurs and what part of construction it is. So you're able to divide, oh, look, we're spending a lot of money on site development, or we've got a lot of roofing costs or a lot of, facade costs. This is helpful in just figuring out where you're spending the money and what type of construction. Plan type report. We talked earlier about the plan types: performance, integrity, accessibility, modernization, life cycle renewal. This basically takes all of the costs for a facility or a portfolio and just shows you what type of a plan type you're spending your money on. This is actually for one of the parks here on site. And this is one of the exceptions where we did include a lot of modernization adaptation in it. You can see this purple section, we've got a very large amount of modernization costs for this location in the first 10 years. So finally, we've got replacement reserves, and I only am showing the first 10 years because if I was to run the 20-year, you simply want to be able to read it on your screen. This 10-year report is for one of the sites, and we show each asset. We show its expected useful life, its effective age, and its remaining useful life, quantity, cost, and then we chart it out over time here. We've got the years. 2021 is current year. This is year one is 2022. And then our last year, and this is 2031. This is a replacement reserve table, and this is really ultimately the essence of the reports. Ultimately, this is why you do the report, is to get this replacement reserve table. One last chart I want to show you is called the Facility Condition Index. The purpose of this is simply to, and this is for buildings only. The purpose of this chart is to compare the status of good repair between buildings in a portfolio. Doesn't tell you really a lot, just one building by itself, but if you've got a portfolio of multiple buildings, you're able to compare what sort of condition each building is in comparison to the other. And all you do is you take its current replacement value and you divide it by the facility needs at the time. And this FCI will change over time. And I'm going to show you some FCI charts for the facilities. You'll see that it changes over time if you don't address, if you don't take care of the needs, then you'll see that FCI increase. Okay, so on to the findings and reports for the parks. We've got a list of the parks here that we assessed, and this does include end of trail site, but not the buildings. So let's start here. So here's our immediate repairs for the parks. You can see the number of items of immediate repair costs for each site here, and then the estimated cost to remedy that or those deficiencies. We list each of the site here and then give a total cost here. So these would be current year costs. These would be, 2021 costs. These are the most critical items that we identified at each of the parks. And these things will be made up of safety items, as well as accessibility items and performance integrity type items. I'll show that to you here in just a minute. Again, for systems expenditure for the parks, this, if you recall, is where we take all of the costs over a certain period of time. In this case, 10 years. I plotted a chart for 10 years, and you just divide it into building elements or site elements and then chart it out over time. The darker the color, the higher the magnitude of cost. So you can see that there's in years, in the short-term costs, you can see there's really quite a bit of money, $4 million coming due under site development. And of course, that makes sense because we're dealing with parks. The next chart here is the plan type chart, or what we call a donut chart. And we take, again, that same 10-year total for all the repairs, and we divide it in between what type of items, what type of repairs each one is for. There's safety, so fortunately, that's very low. Performance integrity, that's a large chunk of it. We would expect exactly that. Well, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Taking that back out. Accessibility is 200,000. Modernization and adaptation, 3 million. Life cycle renewal. This actually is the one. Life cycle renewal is the one that for most facilities, most parks, etc., you would expect that this would be the highest number, and in this case, it is. So we do have a large performance integrity number here, but even larger life cycle renewal. And finally, replacement reserve for the parks. Again, I only ran this for 10 years, simply because I don't think it would be readable for me to present a 20-year table in this format. What we've done, again, is take each of the parks. We've identified the costs by year in each of the parks. So you can see Abernathy Creek doesn't have a lot going on until 2024, whereas Clackamas Park, right in 2023, we've got some really large numbers going on here. And I think you guys are all aware of some of the issues that are going on there. So after 10 years, we've got almost 13 million in various costs for the parks. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the same charts for the buildings. The list of our buildings, or excuse me, the facilities. Facilities: Buena Vista House, End of Oregon Trail buildings, First Street, Ermitinger, Mountain View Cemetery, the pool, and Pioneer Center. So back to immediate repairs. I call these park facilities as to distinguish them from city facilities. So we've got a fairly high number here, and it's largely being generated from End of Trail Interpretive Center. The wagons is driving a lot of the costs there. And you're going to be able to see from some of the other reports that this particular facility needs a significant amount of work. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. We've got some things going on at the Mountain View site as well. I think there's a lot of paving and concrete step and sidewalk issues, as well as I think there's some accessibility issues going on there as well. And then the other sites are less dramatic than especially End of Trail Interpretive Center. The system expenditure for the park facilities, again, we've got a large, that same number, almost $800,000 for facade. Remember, that's End of Trail, the wagons there. A lot of money being generated right there, or being required right there. We've got our immediates or short terms, and then, but you can see here site development, almost 2.3 million there. I think that's Clackamas Park. Some of the effects of the flooding there. So you can see, you can see the effects of some of these deferred maintenance items popping up in each one of our charts. The plan type chart, modernization, adaptation, we've got 2.9, excuse me. I mentioned Clackamas Park. That's not right. This is the facilities. I don't recall what number this is for. I was getting my charts mixed up here. Plan type charts. we've got life cycle renewal at 6.6 here for 10-year total. We would expect that. Modernization adaptations, we got 2.9. Performance integrity, we've got a fair amount of money there. We've got some safety items here, about 41, about 41,000 for that. Then replacement reserves, we're showing the 10-year again on this. Again, we've got 1.1 in the first year. Years 2 and 3, it's got another $1 million right there. Over 10 years, we've got almost 11.6 million in 10 years for replacement reserves. And one thing I'll point out again, when you see costs out at year 2028, 2029, basically costs from year, like year 3 to year 20, those are what we call typical life cycle replacement costs. That's just things just wearing out just through normal use. So, those aren't considered deficiencies. They're just normal life cycle replacement costs. So the last chart here, this is the facility condition index. And like I was saying, this is a good way in order to compare buildings amongst each other. And obviously what stands out here is the wagons at end of trail. So you can see a current FCI of 19.5 it's not good. It's actually we've got the table above here, but 19.5, that's a lot. That's really high FCI. You can see that after 10 years, that FCI, if we don't address it, it gets up to 30, almost 36%. You get up to about 50%, and a lot of facilities just start thinking about replacing the entire building. If they consider it unsalvageable once you get up to around 50 or so. These numbers increasing over time presumes you don't do anything. You don't make any of the repairs. And so, the required repairs to start building upon each other year after year. And my guess for the interpretive center, the wagons, is that this number is probably low if you don't do something about some of the faults that are going on there. I'm thinking that this number is actually going to be a bit higher than that. So a couple little things here at the end, and that is I wanted to let you guys know or remind you that we've got this online reporting capital planning tool called Asset Calc, and that Oregon City's got access to all of this data. Then you're able to make all of these charts. You're able to add costs, subtract costs, manipulate the data as you wish for a period of up to 1 year. And you're able to extend that if you find it to be a useful tool. And I can provide training, or we can provide training for your staff on how to use that. But it's a useful database. We've got a lot of clients who really like to use it. It's great for helping you do capital planning and to slice and chop the data into various reports, so you can, just look at the data in different angles. And this is just another slide just about Asset Calc. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. And are there any hands? Can I see a hands up if you have any questions? Karen, you've got questions or comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a minor question, and this is probably for Kendall. The train depot surprises me. Is that just the waiting area? I thought
the train depot, we probably should make an adjustment and remove that from this chart. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the train depot is managed by is it economic development? Denise?
Yeah, it's economic development. But we as facilities also manage that as a city facility. It is not a park facility, but a city facility.
Okay,
Okay,
that'd be
thank you.
my mistake for including that in this presentation.
Karen, was that it for you or do you have more?
No, that was it, but I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Tim,
So Jim, will we get a copy of your report on your calculations for all the park facilities there?
Well, so the answer is yes. And we make all of our reports available to Kendall and Denise and the folks there. And they're able to transmit those reports as they wish. So the answer is yes.
Okay, and my second question is probably to Kendall. One of the numbers that I saw on there was for Waterboard Park, it was over $1 million. What are you gonna do with $1 million in Waterboard Park?
So let me explain Waterboard Park. Waterboard Park's in a geological hazard. Currently, we're working with the geohazard engineer to work on some of the issues that we've had with rocks falling and trees falling. So we're trying to mitigate some of those issues, but we know that with the work that we've already started, that's going to be an extremely expensive fix to mitigate some of those issues. The other issue is the pathway in Waterboard Park, making a decision on how to maintain that or make some adjustments for repairs with that. But the fact that it's a geological hazard, the fact that we're going to have to do some mitigation to make some adjustments to deal with some of the movement that we have at Waterboard Park, it's going to be an extremely expensive fix.
The trail will be a hazard no matter what you do. And I know walking down it in the wintertime, it gets very icy too. So, I mean, that'll be a challenge. So that's all I got to say.
thank you, Tim. Any other comments or questions? Question then, Kendall, when you get that, are you comfortable sending that report or those slides out to all of us?
If Jim once Jim shares his presentation with me, I will make sure that the presentation goes out. Each site visit is quite hefty, but we'll work on getting like a summary report that we can share so everyone can have that information. One of the things I do want to reference with working with BVTA is they've been very good partners. But one of the things we've been trying to do on our end with working with them is as we continue to address deferred maintenance, we've been trying to share that information with Jim to do some updating in regards to replacement costs. And he's been very flexible in incorporating some of that information. So we still have some work to do on the presentation and some of the information that we have as we continue to do replacements. So the software that he has, updating that information once we have actual replacement costs, that's going to be an ongoing thing that we'll need to do. Also, I wanted to point out the fact that with construction costs being so high right now, that was something else that we discussed with Jim, just wanting to make sure that we provide an overall scope of the environment that we're in and the costs associated with it. That's been something that we've been working on as well.
Thank you. Unless any member of the committee wants something different, I am fine with just receiving the presentation, which has a few charts and the summaries. I don't need a detail or even an additional summary other than what's been provided here. I think that's sufficient. Just just to have something that we can reference to throughout, because this is going to be a process over a very long period of time. But unless there's a request from someone on the committee for something different. Everyone okay with that? Okay. All right. Kendall, anything you want to say to finish that up, or are we good there?
Yeah, one other thing, next steps for us, we'll continue to work with Jim. We'll continue to work on the information provided in this report. Next step for us is to take this to the city commission and share this information. The request from the city commission after we share this information is to get the city commission to provide us approval to move forward with actually hiring a funding consultant to move forward on doing some research on funding options, doing some public engagement, and bringing that information back to PRAC and the city commission so we can have a plan on how to address the deferred maintenance backlog that we have moving forward.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Kendall, do you need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm
All right.
sorry. So we need a motion. I'm sorry. Go ahead then.
I move that PRAC approve the presentation as given tonight, and that our next step is to hire a funding consultant. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
All right, to move to the next step of this process. And that was from Karen.
Do we have a second? Sean, is that a second?
Yes, sir. Second.
Kendall, we have Karen with the motion, Sean with the second.
All right. Tim West,
Aye.
Karen Morey,
Aye.
Troy Bollinger,
Aye.
Jeff Sargent,
Yes.
Derek Kugel,
Aye.
Andy Crump, Sean Datchler,
Aye.
Brent Haverkamp. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a step back here for a second. I need to apologize. I mentioned that Brent was out with family tonight, but Andy is also out and excused for family. And I really apologize. That was just an oversight. So both of them are out spending time with their family. So I want to make sure that was mentioned. Next up is naming process for Filbert Run Park. All of you have received an email today about the groundbreaking coming up next week. If you haven't, it's because you didn't check your email, so I encourage you to do that. And that certainly would indicate to you then that we're breaking ground. And so moving forward on that park, we had talked, we've talked previously, and we've also, as part of our goals, have naming the park, but then putting together a naming committee to handle that. And those, I don't want to go over the policy, the naming policy tonight. We've gone over that a couple of different meetings. We made some recommendations, city commission approved that, and that's been changed. So I would encourage you to look in the past notes. I think last month and the month before we had talked about that. So you can use that to refer to those details. But as part of that, PRAC is responsible for the chair for that committee and then participation in the committee. So I have asked Brent Haverkamp to be the chair of the Filbert Run Park Naming Committee, and he has accepted that assignment. And I have asked Tim West to be a member of that committee as well, and he has accepted that assignment. I will also take a kind of a backseat passive role on that committee. And then we'll have a couple other, Kendall's going to be on that, and then there'll be a few others yet to be named. So those few people will get together first to decide how the other members of the committee, kind of how we're going to round that out. I have encouraged Brent, and he has accepted, to make sure that we have heavy community involvement in that. The policy allows us some flexibility with some minimums that are set for membership in that committee. And I have encouraged him to stack that committee full of community members so that we can get a lot of input, certainly within the neighborhood of Filbert Rudd, but also we want some outside of that. And they may decide to involve or request a few other members of PrAC to be part of that. It's not required by policy, but certainly would be okay to do. And so if that's something you're interested in, shoot me an email or shoot Brent an email. I guess either one, letting one of us know of your interest. And I don't know if they're going to decide to go that direction or not, but if they do, then we want to know who's interested. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none. Okay. PrAC annual update to the City Commission. Each year, typically, PrAC makes an annual update to the City Commission. I don't believe we did that. I think last year we skipped that, given the circumstances. I believe we did that in 2019, but we're back at it again for 2021. I will be making that presentation to City Commission. I'll be working with Kendall to identify some dates, some options to, that work for everybody to fit on the agenda, my schedule, and so forth. And I will be making that presentation. It is not necessary nor required that other PrAC members attend, but you are all welcome. We'll let you know when that is, when I'll be making that presentation. And if you want to sit in the audience and just be there, be present for that, you're more than welcome. So we'll let you know. Most important about this is I want to know, I don't want to go make a presentation that is just things that I think are important or important to highlight. So I would like to hear from you if you have a particular thing that you think is important that the City Commission know. Keep in mind, this is an annual update. It's not a request. It's not anything that we're really asking of them. We're just kind of a state of PrAC, if you will. So if there's anything that's of particular interest or you think that's really important that they know about, please send me an email and I will consider including that. Please don't assume that I'm just going to include it and then be disappointed if I don't. So if you think it's important, even if you think it's obvious, please send it to me. Let me know what you think is important. And because I want to make sure that what I'm presenting is from the committee and not just from me, even though I'm the one speaking. Any questions or comments on that? All right. In-person meetings, effective immediately. PrAC will be having all of our meetings in person at City Hall, back where we used to be. And I say effective immediately because that would include any work sessions, special sessions, and regular sessions that we might have after tonight. So we will be meeting in person from now going forward. City Commission has already been doing that, and it's time to get back. Any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sharon, go ahead.
I know CIC is going to be at City Hall. The City Commission is meeting in the new courtroom at the police department.
Right, we're meeting at City Hall for them, but yes, they're meeting at the new safety.
Is there a future plan to move the other meetings to that location, or I thought they were going to change the use of the space at City Hall?
Not that I'm aware of, Karen. As of right now, we're still going to be utilizing City Hall for meetings.
No, but next door would be so much nicer.
I thought maybe you were getting at
Selfish wish there.
you could just walk. Tim?
Are we gonna have an opportunity to do a hybrid meeting just in case I'm traveling and I want to go ahead and attend this meeting Is there any way that we can go ahead and work that in for meetings moving forward?
Well, our bylaws do not allow PrAC members to leave the state. So,
But if you're in state and you're just not in Oregon City?
Kendall, what are your thoughts on that?
We are looking at ways and options for people to participate through Zoom as an option moving forward. I will need a lot more training from our city reporter on how to figure that out, but I will be having some additional conversations with them on how we can go about doing that and still utilizing City Hall and allowing people access through Zoom.
Along those lines, regardless, well, in addition to whatever's decided from the staff, I would encourage everyone to, do your best to be there in person. I mean, and I don't mean, what I'm not meaning by that is change family vacations. Clearly, if you're gone or something or work, that's fine. But what I mean is if you're in town, we would like you to join us in person as soon as you possibly can. It is a very difficult thing trying to run a board, a control board with TV, with YouTube, with Zoom, and still trying to pay attention. So with Kendall and then even the local TV, it's quite a challenge. So anything you can do would be helpful in that regards. Any other questions or comments on that topic? Okay. Tim's going to talk to us about the letter against violence in Oregon City parks. This was mentioned Tim mentioned it last month at our meeting, and we agreed to put it as a future agenda item. And then there was some discussion, but no decision in email amongst committee members. And I say that so that the public's aware that we have discussed this a little bit, but no decision was made. So Tim, if you want to take a few minutes and bring everybody up to speed as to, I guess, kind of what you brought forward, the purpose, why you brought it forward and what your thoughts are on there, and then we'll have some discussion.
Sure. So there was a letter that was written by James Graham, who is the Economic Development Director for Oregon City. And it went out to all businesses within Oregon City, saying that we don't condone violence. Oregon City is a friendly place. We want to keep this area peaceful, and we do not condone violence. And I kind of looked at that letter and went, well, that's pretty neat. That'd be really nice to go ahead and adopt here, because the whole thing revolved around the Proud Boys going ahead and waving their flags down at Clackamas Park. And Troy, you brought up the fact that, the police will go ahead and stop that from ever happening again, which is not true. I called the Parks Department and asked them about what kind of requirements you have to go ahead and rent out a facility in Oregon City. And they said, it's an online form, you just fill it out. That's no problem. Then we give it to you. Do you go ahead and pass that list to the police to see if there's anybody that we shouldn't be renting to? No, we don't. So it's something that's approved.
Yeah, Tim, if I could stop you just for a second. I don't believe this was the topic of our discussion. The topic of our discussion.
This was exactly the topic.
Okay, hang on though.
The whole point of this, Troy.
Hang on a second. Tim, please, I'm gonna take the gavel here. Hold on just a second. What we want to hear is what you brought up, which was the letter against violence in Oregon City parks. I know you're passionate about this. I love your passion. You have some valid points. But to make sure we're all clear, what I need you to do is stick with what you're wanting us to do with a letter against violence in Oregon City. And then when it comes to discussion, certainly we'll all be able to share. We'll hear you, you'll hear us, and everything else. So can you explain the letter portion?
Okay, this whole thing boiled down, and I could see that from the discussion that it's something that gets too complicated to go ahead and put into any form of a letter. And as I looked at it further, to go ahead and do what I was thinking about, it is to have a note on the website that says we reserve the right to refuse service, just like a bar says it for patrons that they don't want to deal with. And I
So
think that
are you abandoning your
I'm
request for a letter?
yes, I'm abandoning the letter, but I am encouraging some notification on the online
Okay,
forum
so Tim,
that says that.
Tim, I'm going to take back the gavel here. I'm really trying to keep order, and the agenda item is the letter against violence in Oregon City.
Yep.
I think you have some good ideas, but that's not this topic. This topic is the letter. So to clarify, are you now abandoning your request and idea that we need as PrAC members to have a letter against violence?
I am abandoning that because the whole thing came about to say, how do we go ahead and have a policy that will go ahead and bar people of violence to rent out facilities in Oregon City.
Okay.
And
So,
I think that just by putting we refuse the right to
so
return.
Tim, I'm going to stop you again. I think you're missing the point. We are now talking about a letter from PrAC. The other ideas you have are good and valid, but they're not about the letter.
I'm abandoning the letter.
Okay, perfect. So let's stop right there. Karen, do you have thoughts about the letter, only the letter against violence in Oregon City Parks?
Okay, Troy, you could not limit the discussion to a letter, even though it was headed that way on an agenda. This
Okay.
is a discussion. There could be other motions. What you wrote on an agenda does not limit what will be discussed.
Okay.
I want to clarify one thing, and do not interrupt me.
I may.
The letter
if
was
necessary.
not written by James Graham. I did clarify with James that the letter that Tim and I both received was from the Oregon City Business Alliance, and it was specifically for business organizations. I have a question for Kendall because I believe I read that staff will be screening reservation applications for quote unquote known problems. Kendall?
Well, I just want to clarify something. Our process in providing services to the community and shelter rentals was not the issue with this incident. When the reservation was made and we asked questions about the reservation, we notified the proper authorities, we notified the police, and made them aware of possible issues that might be coming along with the reservation. We're not in the habit of banning people for their beliefs. What we were trying to address are the actions of violence in our parks. We did the right thing. There was proper screening. There was proper communication to leadership and to the authorities. So I just want that to be clear.
Okay, so my question is, do you need the support of PrAC to continue that practice in the future, or is this just informational tonight?
This is informational. We have been reviewing our park reservation policies. We have been working with leadership, our city attorney, to make sure that we're managing these reservations appropriately. So I don't feel that there's a need to add another level of screening at this time for people who are trying to utilize our park.
Thank you.
So, Kendall, are you
Tim.
saying
Hold on,
that
Tim.
when the Proud Boys want to
Tim,
go ahead
Tim.
and rent again, you're going to?
Tim, order, Tim. I can't have you jumping in here, bud. I need some respect on the table here. Okay. Karen had her hand up. I wanted to make sure she was 100% done. You did not have your hand up. Let's calm down. Okay. Karen, are you done? Anything else for you?
I am done.
Okay. Jeff, any comments that you have to share on this?
Well, what happened at Clackamas Park was absolutely deplorable, and I sincerely hope that we never have a situation like that again. But I understand the problems, having been in the Parks Department down in Arizona. I understand the problems of providing access to the community. When people ask to be able to reserve the facilities, if they're members of the community, they should be allowed to. But that was also during a period or an era, I guess, that things were a lot more civil and normal. We're entering into times now where it's probably a little less, not quite as easy to determine whether the people that are applying for a facility have other ulterior motives in mind. And what disturbs me the most is putting other participants at the park at risk by the actions of a few. I think this is a city issue. It's not just a Parks and Recreation issue. I would think, or I would hope that the city council is working with Kendall and others, the police department, what have you, to come up with a process where we can guarantee the safety of others that are in the park. I have no doubt that that'll happen. It's just the process that needs to go through. And I'm sure that having heard what Kendall just said, that he's working with the various agencies there at the city to come up with some procedures for this. But it's going to be very important, I think, to be able to ferret out groups that either have a history of violence or have an agenda that they're bringing to the city that is at cross purposes with parks. Parks are for recreation and for enjoyment and a sense of community, not discord and violence. So I really I feel for Kendall and his staff and what they're going through in the future with this, but I have every confidence that the Parks Department and the City Council will be able to address this. And if we can help in any way, I think we should. So thanks, Troy.
Jeff, thank you very much. Sean, any comments about this topic?
No more from me.
Okay. Tim, I think we've heard you loud and clear. Everyone, I will close up with some comments, but so everyone's had an opportunity. But before I say that, rather than restate what you've already said, is there anything that you think, Tim, needs to be said that has not yet been said?
I would like to know what policies Kendall's going to be putting in place so that we don't see a repeat of this when somebody does an online reservation. What kind of things are put in place that the staff on site that answers the phone doesn't know about today because they don't think there's anything that's stopping anybody?
Okay. I think that's a good future agenda item. I'm not going to put Kendall on the spot right now to answer that. I know they're working hard, and maybe we can come up with something that Kendall feels comfortable sharing with us at the next meeting, and maybe there'll be some revisions by then that he could share. Is that fair, Kendall?
Sure.
Thank you. I do want to say, as the last comment to move on from here, I am very confident in the city, the way the city is handling this and has handled it. Kendall and I have spoken a little bit about this one-on-one. I know it's an important issue to him. I know it's an important issue to the city, and they have done an incredible job. There's rules already in place. They can't just jump in and change the rules on a whim. And we, as Jeff mentioned, we can't hurt some while we're helping others. Everyone's entitled to participate as long as they follow the rules and they're, citizens if that's required or whatnot. Chief Band and his group of officers did a wonderful job at the particular event, as they do in serving Oregon City at all. So, Kendall, you have my support, and I think you guys have done a great job. So we're going to move on. I am going to do a little bit of a change here.
Troy,
just
I
because-
wanted to add one thing.
Hang on, Karen. I said we're going to move on. So
My
now
hand-
we're moving on to the next agenda item, which I'm going to change it. We're not going to go to member reports yet, because what I'm going to talk about will potentially affect that. So we're going to jump all the way down to our next meeting, which is currently scheduled for August 26th. In the past, we have not met in August because August was the Volunteer Appreciation Month. And so we did not meet. That not happening this year, it just got put on the schedule for August 26th. So I'm going to ask everyone's opinion or input about whether or not we should be meeting August 26th. Jeff, I would still like your comments, even though you won't be with us, just because I'd like your comments from a standpoint of necessity. But before I ask for your comments, I want to give you a little bit of information. In speaking with Kendall, at this moment, right now, there is nothing that the city needs to bring to us in August. So we wouldn't be moving anything that's important or critical from the city. We would not be pushing that out. So we would be able to go ahead and do that. The other thing that this will affect is a couple of our goals. Our goals require that in August, we talk about deferred maintenance, and we do that quarterly. Well, we just did that. So I think certainly my recommendation or my suggestion is we don't need to do that again next month necessarily as a priority. The other goal is that we will form a subcommittee to discuss the potential need for more off-leash dog areas. I believe that's a topic that we could move to September if everyone agrees, because I don't believe it has any urgency for August. If we agree to move those two goals from August to September, then from a PrAC standpoint, there's nothing that needs to be discussed. Brent did have, as you all know in an email, Brent Haberkamp wanted to discuss volunteer coordinator. We were going to do that tonight, but he needed and wanted to be present for that. So we moved it to August. I believe we could move that one to September as well. So with that information, my opinion is that there's nothing critical that would get tied up if we did not meet in August. That's not me advocating one way or the other. That's just me giving you the information. And then we'll open it up for discussion and see what everybody wants to do before we make a decision. Any thoughts on meeting or not meeting in August? Sean?
Yeah, typically we don't meet in August, and I don't see any reason why we need to. Our bylaws, I think, allow for a couple months off, and this would be one of the traditional ones. So if there was an urgency, then I would say let's go for it. Otherwise, let's take it off. And as a reminder, if something does come up between Kendall and the chair, they can call a special session and we can regroup if needed.
Thank you. And Derek, I guess is on the, Derek, are you able to speak?
Yeah, I want to apologize. First of all, I'm not at home, so hopefully you can hear me.
We can.
I'm on the road. I've heard about half the meeting with my wonderful connection in and out of satellite land. But yeah, not having the meeting on August does work very well for my very limited ability to do any vacation. So I'm all for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, either one way or the other?
How about I move that the August meeting for PrAC be canceled and all agenda items be moved to September.
I'll
Karen.
second.
That's Karen with the motion and Sean with the second. And Kendall, you're muted.
Tim West,
Aye.
Karen Maury,
Aye.
Troy Bollinger,
Aye.
Jeff Sargent,
Aye.
Derek Kugel,
Aye.
Andy Crump, Sean Datchler,
Aye.
Brent Haverkamp. That's it.
All right. Then we will not be meeting in August. So the next meeting then we will correct the agenda would be, hang on, we would be the 23rd of September. Is that what everyone else is seeing? Yeah, okay. September 23rd, 2021 will be our next meeting. Now we've got member reports. Remember, this is an opportunity to report. We will have an opportunity a little bit later for future agenda items, so this would not be the place for that. And this is not a time to go back and revisit other agenda items, but simply to give a report. Tim, you're first on my screen, so do you have a report to give?
The only report that I have is that when I visited the library water park the other day, on the weekend, there were no hours of operation posted. It would be nice to have hours of operations posted on the water parks that we do have. So a person could show up and say, aha, 9 o'clock, this button will work instead of it's broken. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tim. Jeff, any report from you?
No, but I hope you guys will come out and see some of the parks in Hawaii someday.
You know what, hey, Jeff, if you are on the Parks and Rec committee over there, maybe you can arrange some sort of sister arrangement, just fly us all out. And we will come look at your parks and we'll share some feedback even.
Sounds like a plan.
Karen, any report for us?
I don't have a report, but I'd like to finish what I tried to start saying when you shut me down earlier.
Well, I'm going to move on because we're doing reports and that's all we're doing right now. So Sean, any report from you? Okay, I have no report. Kendall, staff reports.
I'd just like to reiterate the groundbreaking on July 27th at 11 a.m. at Filbert Run Park. We're really excited to get that park up and going and moving forward with development. We have had to make some adjustments to the schedule due to some permitting delays. So it's going to take a little bit longer, possibly through December, to get that park up and running, but we are really excited about getting it going. We did do some outreach to the community about the groundbreaking, and we received some positive responses from the community. So also, we've received 4 applicants for the 2 vacant positions that we have on PRAC. And I know we just decided not to meet in August, but I would like to get some direction on when you would like to move forward those interviews.
I would like to see us move forward as soon as possible. So my suggestion would be the first week of August, based on everyone's availability. And I would ask too, Jeff, would you be available to join us for those interviews. And if your answer is no, that's fine, because I know you got a lot going on. But we would certainly value your input, and we may potentially need you for a quorum depending on scheduling. So, but mostly your input if you're available.
Yeah, I should be available. So yeah, send me the invite for sure.
Okay. Any other thoughts on when, Sean, you had your hand up, when we should meet, how we should do this?
I only wanted to make the comment that I think the urgency is only predicated on one thing. I think there's only 3 meetings or 4 meetings that these people will be eligible to attend, and then they're at term limit. They're at the end of their term already. So I think it's worth looking at our bylaws and speaking with the mayor to see if during the appointment can be for the next 3 years plus these 4 months, and not requiring these new applicants to start over in December. It just doesn't seem fair to me. So that said, if the mayor says yes, that takes away from the urgency from doing this in August. Because if you had them in sometime in September, you just move them right on into next year's group.
Any other thoughts? Tim, please.
I'm gone the first 10 days of August, so I can't attend.
Okay, no, that's good to know. Okay, any other comments or thoughts on that topic?
Sean, it'd be just as long as they are aware that we have their applications and why we'll be delaying the interviews. I think you have a wonderful idea.
My concern with delaying is potentially losing, an applicant or 2 just from our delay. That's my concern. Kendall, do you want to fill everybody in on kind of where we're at on Sean's comments?
Yeah, so I know Troy and I have had some discussions. I've also had some discussions with the city recorder and the city manager, and we are looking into options to have them be able to be appointed this year and continue on to serve their term past the term ending in December. So I will have some additional information to provide. I have to do some additional follow-up with the city recorder tomorrow to just make sure that that's something that we can do. But there should be some information coming pretty quickly this week on that topic.
So with that information, I don't want to wait too long on this. So maybe, Kendall, based on what you find out on that, maybe we shoot for, let's see here. Maybe we shoot for, I'm going to say after the 10th, Tim will be back. That gives us another, 2 weeks to be able to make sure we give proper notice, for the public and get those scheduled. And of course, you have to get first the information you need. So is there anyone that objects to August, 11th through the 20th or something like that? Okay. Kendall, do you need anything else from us on that topic?
No.
Okay.
One other update, as you know, the senior center did open on July 2nd. Kathy couldn't be with us tonight, but they've been doing a great job. They've been seeing an uptick in the number of people who are coming in, participating in those activities. And without further ado, I will turn it over to John for his update.
Thank you. Tim, I just wanted to let you know that on the Oregon City Parks and Recreation webpage, Rivercrest and Library Spray Park hours are posted 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily, and that's been updated since June. So you can always utilize that as a, I agree with you, although sometimes we have concerns about signage and how much signage we have within our parks. kind of starts to become cluttery. Just wanted to offer that up as a solution if you're out and about and wanting to know any information, that is posted on our webpage and up to date. Things that have been going on for the Parks and Maintenance Division. We've been working on the replacement of the Veterans Memorial. The old broken concrete has all been removed. We're beginning to pour the concrete walls and borders. We still have the stairs and the front entranceway to still be poured for the concrete, but our staff's been working really diligently to move that project forward. One of the other items that's been discussed a lot lately is the RV park and the RV park opening. We've had some issues with trying to get park hosts for down there. One of our park hosts is going to be leaving here shortly. We do have plans to open the RV park, but if anyone knows of anyone who they think would be a great RV park host, we would love for them to go ahead and apply. That's on the city's webpage as well. Water curtailment. I don't know how many of you folks are aware, but we as a city had to make some difficult decisions as far as our water and water usage. Just as a reference, I had received some information that due to the lack of water, the city of Molalla had actually shut down their spray park. We worked with our water department to work on some other solutions on ways that we can help conserve water. We've dramatically cut back on our water consumption at Mountain View Cemetery. We also scaled back the water usage at most of our larger parks that use a lot of water in our lawn areas. So scaled that back. So I just wanted to make everyone aware, if you notice that the grass maybe isn't as green as it has been in years past, there are reasons behind that. And if anyone has any other questions on that, I can follow up with them at a different time. And then lastly, if you turn your television on, I'm sure you've seen that there's a lot of fire concerns with how dry of a summer we're experiencing. We've been hearing a lot from individuals in the community. We're going to be working with Kristen Brown, our communications coordinator, on some citizen awareness and just trying to get that information out to folks. Getting signage, it'd probably just be temporary signage at this time. A lot of the concerns revolve around cigarettes and their disposal into the dry brush. So we're going to be posting some additional signage in areas that have historically had some difficulties with that. And then we're still dealing with some of the ice storm damage, and that some of that occurred in natural areas. The natural areas weren't cleared as well as the open and more accessible areas. So that means that there was still some brush down in our natural areas. And so our staff's working really hard to address that and the citizens' concerns that we are hearing. So just wanted to make you guys aware of all those things. Our staff's doing a lot of really good work. Summer's very, very busy time of the year. We are seeing an uptick in vandalism. So anything that we can do as a community to help try and curtail that is always appreciated. Our staff's only out and about for so many hours of the day, but the community is in Oregon City 24/7. So anything I think that we can do, whether it be neighborhood associations and just just neighbors who can have eyes on parks and helping us out to minimize and decrease the amount of vandalism that we're seeing in our parks would be great. And that's all I've got for tonight.
Next up, Rochelle.
Oh, Kendall, I had a Jonathan question.
Oh, sorry.
The face-to-face swing at Rivercrest Park that I understand needed the jaws of life. According to Facebook, it has been replaced. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I want to thank the Parks Department for that, because I know that was a big private fundraiser and has been very popular.
Yeah, and that's a situation where we have kids, you know, that's meant for toddlers age 2, you know, well, I mean, smaller than 2 to sit in the infant swings, but you know, it's meant for small children. And when you put teenagers into an infant swing, that can definitely create problems. That's what had occurred at Rivercrest, and just the other night we had a similar, but not as dramatic scenario at Chapin Park, where a 14-year-old was standing inside of the infant swing, and you know, our park host was able to help address the situation and keep the swings from being damaged. So you know, just another highlight on our park host program and some of the amazing work that they do day in, day out, helping keep our parks looking good and keeping them safe for everybody. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I'll go real quick here. So good evening, everyone. Real quick, events on the lawn. So tonight we have our events on the lawn at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. Tonight was trivia, and I heard that was going well. Next week we'll have bingo, and then August 5th we'll have movies in the park. So that's The Princess Bride. So just some upcoming events. And then we'll have some more events in August at that site. So if you're interested, bring the family, and we have some pretty great gifts. And camps are going well, and I want to especially thank Kathy and her team. We're having camps in the basement at the senior center, which has been great. It's a great site. It's gracious of Kathy to let us be there. The parents love it. The kids love it. So thank you, Kathy and her team. Swim lessons, we're jam-packed with wait lists. We're trying to hire and train as fast as we can to accommodate those lists. And it's popular. So it's great to see people back in the facility, and we're in full swing, which is great. And we just had an Ermitinger event this last weekend. It was a miniature exhibit, and that went really well. And the Friends group is really, really active, and they have a couple of events coming up. The next event is August 14th, and it'll be the garage sale. And then September 18th will be a historical baseball game sponsored by the Ermitinger House and the Friends group at Chapin Park. So that should be pretty fun. You want to come see a historical baseball game. And then lastly, just a quick update on our cost recovery efforts. So we did take our cost recovery to a commission work session. It was well received, and they were supportive. I want to thank PRAC for your support. Really, really appreciate that, helping the department and supporting us in those efforts. They did ask for an example of a master fee schedule. So we'll be going back on August 10th and reviewing that fee schedule with them. And then after that, hopefully we will present a resolution to a commission meeting, and our cost recovery will be codified, and we'll be ready to implement that policy and procedure once those are official. So thank you. It's good to see everyone.
All right, Denise.
Good evening, everyone. Tyrone S. Woods Memorial Park is final. We are just looking at warranty work, and a lot of that will be kind of looking at our plant material. So there are some plants out there that looked very stressed. You'll also notice that our watering schedule is in the middle of the day occasionally, and that is trying to establish those plants that were planted late. So we do realize there are plants that don't look good out there, and those will be part of the warranty walk. Our warranty walk will be in the spring trying to do a spring planting to replace those plants in a good season and where plant materials available. DC Latourette, the last part of our project is the fence panels on the elevated platform. And we'll have a 3-day park closure. We'll have information out for that 3-day park closure while they install those panels. And it'll also be on our social media as well. Signage and all that will also be on site. Facilities has been extremely busy. City Hall roof the flat roof has been ripped off and replaced with TPO. So we shouldn't have any more active leaks in City Hall. So that project was a big lift and during the extreme high temperatures. So we did have some delays because we had to pull the guys off the roof when it was over 150 degrees up there. The Pioneer Center HVACs are all up and running. The ones that we had ready for replacement have been installed and are running. And then the one that we needed to repair is also back up and running. Facilities has been doing a little bit of help with Parks Department for the FEMA projects from the ice storm. So they are out trying to help get estimates and get those back in place before our timelines are set and deadlined for FEMA. So we do have to meet those deadlines with all of those estimates and claims of damages. So with that, that is really all we have going on. Thanks.
Thank you. And Troy, that is the end of our update.
Okay, that's it.